Welcome back to another episode of Coding Wizards. Today, in this episode, we're going to be looking at some of the basics of Java. This is not to be confused with JavaScript because they are two different languages. Currently, I'm just on Broxy, broxy.com, which allows you to compile your code and run it, so we're just going to be using this for this video. So first of all, in Java, you're going to create a class. So to do that, type public class, and just curly braces, and we'll just put all our code inside here. So a class is kind of an executable you can use, and you generally have most of your code in a class, but for larger programs, you might have multiple classes and use those. But for now, just think of the class as the overall thing. Next, we need to have a main method. So what happens is that the code inside the main method, whenever you start this program, the computer will look to run the code in the main method. And that's all it will do until it reaches the end of the main method, then it will stop the class. So to create the main method, all we have to type is public static void main, and then parentheses, and then string hugs. So essentially it's public. Anyway, you don't need to know what this means. It doesn't really help. The only thing that you should kind of know is void. This means that this will not return anything. But since it is the method where everything is in, you can't return, you won't be returning anything to a different method because it is the main method, the only method. There's no higher method above it. Okay. Now inside this, we can write code. So one of the basic things you can write is system.out.println. Now what this does is it prints a line to the console, and then we can just put a message like hello world. So if we run that, start. Oh, we have a. Oh yeah, okay. For the class, I forgot to name it public class, and we'll just say test. Now this is the class. Okay, wait. There we go. That should work now. So there we go. It runs, and it says hello world. Also, we can see that it finished. Okay, so yeah. So I forgot you need a name for your for your class to distinguish it. So I just put test here. You can put whatever you want, like soup, flies, and it should run just fine. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now what we can also do furthermore is we can have multiple methods. So say I make public static void. Here's how you make another method, just a basic method. We can say second method. That's what we're calling it. Just put braces, nothing inside them, and there we go. So this method will only run when you call it. So to run the method, we can just put second method like this, and then put parentheses around it. And then what this will do is when the computer reaches this line of code, it will run this method. And then after it's finished running this method, it will return to this line and write the next thing. Always make sure you have semicolons on the end of your things to tell the computer, okay, we're done this line of code, go to the next one. Because otherwise, let's just go on the hello world. If I remove it, it'll say this was expected, and it won't compile properly. So always make sure you have semicolons. So this will call on to this method. So what we can do in this method is we could say like system.out print line. This is another method. Now if we run this, the computer will go into the main method first, and then it will see a hello world, so it will run this code, realize it has to go to the next line, see this, and say, okay, I'm going to go into this second method, and then it'll run this, and then it will come back over here. So we can do some pretty cool stuff with this. If we have, and you can also call methods within methods. For example, if we put second method here, we do not want to do this because it would create an infinite loop. Because what would happen is this would call in second method, it would print this is another method, and then it would print and it would go to second method again. So if we try to run this code, it'll say long output and not really work because there's an error because it's an infinite amount of this is another method and it keeps going on forever. Another thing we can do though is we can call methods within methods, but we don't have to call the same method. For example, if I made a new method for public, I call it method 3 forward method. Inside here, you can just say print 3. So what we can do is we can call in this method from the second method. We go forward method. There we go. And what this will do is it will call on the third method. So if you run this, you'll see we get hello world, this is another method, and 3. If we take out this second method, so what happens is it just goes to the end of the main and ends. It doesn't trigger this one, which will trigger this one. All we see is hello world. Now, you can do some interesting things with method, because what if I made the, what's something we could do? Let's say I called on the third method, which will also call on, so I'll call on the third method, which will call on something called fourth method, which we will make, and then we go static void fourth method. We can do some interesting things with these. So once it hits, we'll remove this and we'll make it say fourth method. This will be interesting. So what we can do is we can let's put out print line just to show what happens. Let's put 1 here. Okay, so what we can do is we can, for example, in fourth method, we can call second method, and maybe even this wouldn't really work because you also got to make sure that you don't create any infinite loops. We could, for example, we could call on second method twice, which would you could call on second method twice, which would this would also trigger fourth method, which would infinitely call on the that's not going to work. Okay, let's just run this code and see how this works. Second method, fourth method, that one works. We could go third method and then change this to just not do anything. And since it's going from the main, we can just do fourth method. Sure. If we remove second method and then go into here, and then we put second method. So we can kind of tell what's going to happen here. So we'll start a program, it'll print hello world, and then it'll go to fourth method. In the fourth method, what it will do is it will print out 1 and then go to the third method. In the third method, it will print out 3 and then go to the second method, and then in the second method, it will print this is another method. So that's pretty cool. What we can also do is we can, this second doesn't go to anything, what we can do is we can make it more complicated. We can put second method here too. So what happens is fourth method is called after hello world. It prints 1. Then it goes to the third method. The third method prints 3, goes to the second method, and prints this is another method. But then we go back here because we're not finished yet, and we go to the second method. And then the second method goes to the second method, prints this, and then we go back up here. In which case we could call maybe another fourth method, which would repeat this whole chain again. So we'll get a pretty long output here, not too long though. So you see a bunch of this is another methods, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, and hello world. So that's quite interesting, because one fourth method would obviously print 1, 3, and then this is another method, this is another method. So you can do some pretty crazy things, just make sure you don't make infinite loops. In the following videos, we're going to cover stuff like variables, just to flesh that out here, because it's different from JavaScript. You actually need to define data types for variables, which can be a little tricky, but also a little more rewarding. Anyway, this has been Methods in JavaScript. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.